Hey guys, here we are again. I don't know if I'm uploading the other video or not. I started. um, just had some issues. I definitely find that inking live, working live, it's it's hard when I'm doing analog versus working digitally. Part of it's just the whole camera setup. I really need to. I've never been able to find a camera setup that I'm happy with, or is even sort of like I could replicate. It always seems like when I get a good angle, it's somehow out of luck, and then whenever I move the camera, I can never really kind of figure it out again. Anyway, inking here. This is Van Gogh. This is a project Taki and I have started. Taki wrote it shortly after her own graphic novel, Sleeping While Standing, which I highly, highly recommend. This is basically about Vincent van Gogh discovering color. It's I think the phrase I like to use is it's a post-impressionistic biography. It's a good way of saying we're making up a lot of stuff. People tend to focus on Vincent van Gogh's mental illness, and both Taki and I have had our struggles with mental health, and I've had a lot of my family. I've seen a lot of really bad things firsthand, and that's just not the full experience. The pain and the frustrations and the problems. That's not the total sum parts of somebody who's struggling with mental illness or mental stress or whatever phrase you want to use. And with Vincent, I don't know. We had this idea that had its own sort of evolution. It started out really goofy, to be honest. It was like Vincent fighting crime in the streets. Like we were gonna go full on goofy with it, like action philosophers kind of thing. And there were reasons for that. Like it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was this other conversation we were having. I think because we were watching a thing on YouTube about Vincent van Gogh's death, and there was speculation that he might have accidentally been shot by a kid. I didn't tell anybody because he didn't want to get the kid in trouble. Now, I don't know if that's true or not or whatever, but that sort of started to facilitate this conversation about him fighting crime somehow. And then as we were doing we were doing research, this other narrative started to appear. Like sometimes when you do research on a story, like it just comes to you. The story just comes to you in this new way and informs you in ways you weren't expecting. And we tie it in with some weird stuff. A little bit of Jack the Ripper. It's not a major part of the story, but it sort of, that event affects some of the other things in the story. Basically, Vincent van Gogh discovering color in a world that's like black and white, which I think, metaphorically, is a big part of it. Like who used yellow like Vincent before Vincent? Anyway, another neat thing I thought about it is like this idea of like bringing some adventure into his life. I think he would have liked that. I think he would have. Man, I'm not too happy with all this. We'll see if I might end up playing around with it digitally to fix these folds, or just change. See if I can find a different way of going about them. But anyway, what was I saying? I think about Vincent's adventures. I think he would appreciate somebody looking at his life in a different way, other than through his pain and frustrations with art and stuff. And that's all still here. It's just not the focus. Because, like I said, when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, it's dimensional, you know. Mental illness and just dealing with that stuff. It's so much more to the picture than one thing, you know. My mom went through like tons and tons of stuff. I was in and out of institutions and stuff, and you know, got to experience a lot of that as a young person. And that's not all she was. She was a really funny, loving, thoughtful person. So I'd like to think it's nice to give Vincent something more than just I'm a tortured artist. I don't think he was tortured. Frustrated, sure. And incredibly young. That was one of the really surprising things. Especially because in media, he's almost always portrayed by older dudes. I'm forgetting offhand his age when he passed, but it was really young. It was like in his 30s. And he did most of his paintings, and like the most of his paintings that we're really aware of, the ones that are really celebrated, were just in the last few years of his life. It's really interesting stuff. So it'll be cool to see how people react to this. Not everybody will react to it positively, I'm sure. Especially non-comics people who would want some sort of traditionally, historically accurate thing. And it's not that this is inaccurate. It's just a lot of speculation, you know, that we're pinning real events of his life around. No matter what your intentions are when you're doing a biography of someone, there's always some, I don't want to call it agenda, but like some sort of skew you're giving the story, even if you're trying to be as completely accurate as possible. I don't know how you can accurately recreate somebody's life. Even modern people, you know. I look at some of my friends who have a certain amount of fame and the way they're perceived. And the idea that somebody could make a movie about them or a comic that would be accurate, even as somebody you have like all these access to with social media and stuff, I just don't see it. I don't think you can. You can capture an aspect of somebody probably, which is usually what you see in biography, right? Like, I'm a big fan of The Doors and Jim Morrison and stuff, and you know, Stone's film really concentrated on just his self-destructive streak. But you listen to people who knew him, and yeah, he had that. He could be an asshole and a horrible person sometimes, but like anybody else, you know, he was sensitive and quiet and shy in different ways at different times. That Charlie Chaplin film concentrated on one narrative, one which I don't even think was necessarily true. But usually that's how you tell a story, is you find an angle and that you're in. And we're kind of doing that here. You know, our angle here is just about Vincent's creativity. His creativity is the driver of the story for us. His creativity has this cascading effect within the world. And for as abstract as that is, I mean, I think that's kind of his real story. you know. It's not that he was tortured. His story was that he was a creative person so powerful that it changed history, changed everything around him. And it was also pretty interesting because part of that change came because of his. A lot of people give his brother credit because his brother was an art dealer, but it was really his brother's wife. Johanna, she really carried on the legacy. Because Van Gogh's brother died not much longer after he did. And she was the one who really picked up the art business and Vincent's paintings and introduced him to the world. Kept his dream alive. Boy, yeah, I've really kind of fallen out of the ability to draw analog and do these videos at the same time. It is hard. Maybe it's just that I'm out of practice. It's probably more that than anything else. Just haven't done this in a while. Man, I do really, really, really love drawing analog. Even for all the little mistakes and imperfections, that'd be so much easier. So much of this is easier to do digitally, but there's a quality of line that you get with using different pens that I'm sure somebody smarter than me can master digitally. But there's also just a sense of a real thing that I'm doing here that doesn't translate digitally. I don't know how to explain it really. But practically speaking, and I'm a very practical, pragmatic person when it comes to my work and most of my life, really. Working digital is just faster, more convenient. I can't take this page onto the couch with me at night and draw or work at the breakfast table or something like that. Digitally, I can do that. I can pick that thing up and take it anywhere with me and complete a whole book. Don't need any other tools. I don't need to scan or anything like that. But it is missing a certain kind of soul. And at the same time, it also has a line quality that's different than this line quality. And by quality, I don't mean better. I just mean, the qualities of it, how it looks, how smooth it is or isn't, and the kind of variations you get. It's different. In some ways, it's better. But I do wish I just had the time to do everything analog. But one of the reasons I don't have time isn't just because I'm busy and I work on multiple projects. Technically a full-time caregiver with Taki, and she's got MS and stuff. I've been trained to just marathon run, It started out in the early days of just trying to get work and how important it was to get work so I could pay bills. So it was hurry up and do these sample pages. Hurry up and get the sample pages out so that I can get feedback from editors and have working relationship with editors, and then once I have the work, make sure I'm rushing to meet the deadlines, And because I was rarely ever working on, I started out in indie comics, of course, so that meant I wasn't really making any kind of living off of it, so I had to do more to make up the difference financially and stuff. So it's just to always more, faster, faster, faster. So now 30 years later, even if somebody gave me $1 million to take all the time in the world on these pages, I don't know that mentally I can, you know. Yeah, I just don't know. And to be honest, I don't know if that would be a good thing or not. There are times where I really, really, really tried to slow down because, like, it's like a big cover, it's a big opportunity. Like I did a Guardians of the Galaxy movie poster thing. Not the movie poster, but it was used for some specific promotional thing. It was kind of a big deal, and I spent a couple days on it. It's nice, but it is stiff. You know, it's overthought. All these mistakes and sloppiness, like even like on his face here, there's this sort of abstractness to it that's so much better than if I got too literal, if I spent too much time on it. You'll often hear artists talk about, like, oh, I wish my breakdowns and my sketches had or my finishes had the energy of my breakdowns and sketches. My prelims have more energy to them than my finishes. You'll hear this all the time. And I definitely fit into that area, you know. I'm not a Adam Hughes or Frank Cho, like just these beautifully perfect constructed drawings, you know. So it's like the more abstract, the more almost wacky the work gets, the better it is, you know. For me. That said, I feel like because I'm sort of out of practice of like recording and speaking while I'm working analog like this, I've got a lot of fixing to do on this page. Digital fixing. But I'll record that. And I'll share it with you guys. I'll share with what I think I hit right and what I think I did not do well. And sometimes I can't tell. Sometimes I can't tell. Is this the right kind of weird looking? Is this the right kind of... Ah, shit, I'm drawing the wrong guy. But that's okay. It's going to work out. I didn't get to those details yet. In my head, I'm drawing Van Gogh here, but this is one of the attackers. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I think there's something that looks really bad, and then I'll look at it again later when I've scanned it in or something, and I realize, oh no, it's not bad at all. Or I thought something was just whacked out, like really like a wacky drawing, awkward, fumbly, and sometimes it still is, but it's like that kind of awkward drawing in the right way, but not always. So yeah, I'll like leave a note for myself to fix something, to go back and make sure I change this thing. And then when I do, I'm like, oh wait, you know, it's all right. What am I talking about? It's fine. Yeah, like I'm really just distracted by the camera being like right next to my head. I'm not sure if, in fact, I started recording before. I'm not sure if I'm going to include that. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. But in that video, one of the things I was talking about was I just completed inking. For Murder Inc., we did a 6 cover connecting spread. And I recorded that digitally, and it went really, really well. It's like 20 hours. 20 hours, I'd say, of recorded material. Not a problem. In fact, I had a lot of fun with it. But then recording this, suddenly the camera, I'm constantly feeling it in the way. I'm constantly thinking about my big old head being in the way, and I'm not concentrating on the lines nearly enough. One of the things that I iterate a lot in the videos when we're not sure when we're going to put them up because we got to figure out how to use them correctly for promotional material and all that. One of the things that I talk about a lot is how important it is to be your own artist. Don't listen to anybody telling you you're doing something the right way, the wrong way, specifically the wrong way. Telling you how you should draw. These tools that you're using are wrong. I hate hearing stuff like real artists don't use photo reference. What an idiot would say that. Some of the greatest artists in the world, the classics, all use reference of different kinds. Anyway, I don't want to get on a rant. But, don't let people shame you. I hate that. Trying to tell you you're not a real artist or you're a hobbyist or any of that stuff. You're drawing and you're spending time on it, whether you're professional or you do look at it as a hobby. You know what? It's the same thing. You're an artist. And there's no art cops out there. There are no badges out there saying, I am an authority on art and comics, and I have the right to tell you what you're doing is wrong or not good. It's all opinions. There's lots of stuff out there that I'm not a fan of, but it doesn't mean it's wrong or somebody's taking a lesser path because they're doing something else that I don't like. And I certainly don't have the right to tell them you shouldn't do it this way. And I just see so much of that out there. It's disheartening. It's weird. I'll be honest, there's a lot of insecure bros out there. Kind of the best way to put it. So yeah, don't be intimidated. If you're interested in making comics, especially if you're watching this video because you're just curious how it's done, and I've got a bunch of different tutorials you can look through. But nonetheless, there's nothing I can show you is as important as telling you that no one can tell you what you're not. I didn't go to art school. I can hear somebody going, yeah, it shows. But no, I didn't. I wish I did. Just didn't have money or access or any of that stuff, But I found my art school in finding other creators, other artists who taught me stuff. Adam Hughes, Neil Vokes, Dave Johnson. These dudes were like integral teaching me stuff. And other people who didn't even make it. There was a group of artists that I knew that, they never got the career. But, they still had skills that they shared and taught me and stuff. Rambling. But rambling comes easy when you're splitting your attention between lines and, just wanted to communicate while I'm drawing. And I should just keep my mouth shut. Let the work do the talking. That's my ultimate philosophy on this stuff. Just let the work speak for you. I don't fill in most of my blacks as I'm working on the page. That all is just, again, time. It takes just a long time to fill in, you know, these little spaces and stuff. I eventually have to fill it in so I can sell the pages. And it's also fun experimenting with black spotting on the computer, because there's the stuff I intend to fill in, but then every now and then I'll accidentally fill in an area that I'm not intending to, and it's like so much better than what I had planned. The best world of kind of mixing analog and digital. So Van Gogh is like headbutting this guy behind him. I'm not sure how well it'll translate. We'll see. I also really enjoyed, I don't have the page near me. The pages before this, like this fight, I want to make sure, like Van Gogh's not a tough guy. I'm not pretending that's happening. It's not that much of a fantasy. So it's really, really fun drawing this, like, awkward fist fight. You know, punches being thrown and missed. People falling at the same time that they're punching. Just a little weird shrapnel in the air. You don't see too much here, but on the previous page, like every time Van Gogh got punched, there'd be a pencil falling out of his pockets, or some paper, or a brush, you know, like he was made out of it. But yeah, line work here is a little shaky, but again, that has to do with the way I'm recording right now. But it's also working because they're fighting, so it gives it this more grubbier, kind of rougher look to stuff. And the variation you get on this Bimoji pen is just amazing. Watch. Thin, nice and thick, thin, thick. I love it. And sometimes I would do that with a brush, especially if it was a bigger, thicker line work. I think this was mostly brush on the outside here. But for these finer lines, I can do it with a brush too, but it sort of depends on stuff. Like, I'm being lazy right now. My brushes are low on ink, so I could take the time to, fill it. But for some reason, I'm like, I just want to keep moving. I'll have to take time to fill the brushes later. I can get a similar effect with the Bimoji pen on these smaller panels. Just now starting to feel a little more comfortable with the camera there and stuff. Not that much. I'm getting there. Which is good, because I want to start using my YouTube channel for this more on a regular basis. Use it to communicate more with people and yeah, just show you behind the curtain. I gotta draw their feet over here. Now, I could just go with pencil, obviously, and sketch it out here. But I think instead I'm just going to turn this over and just sketch this out in pen. Now, the reason I didn't want to do the pencil is because then I'd have to erase it afterwards, and I might forget, which I've done. And then what happens is I scan it in, and then I have to either make this horrible choice of rescanning the whole thing, or zooming in close and doing all this touch-up stuff. It's a little bit easier with Clip Studio nowadays, because Clip Studio can just grab it's just easier at separating pencils from ink lines if you accidentally do that. Look at that. Nice and easy. Alright, let's finish here with the hands and face. I'm going to use this Faber-Castell Pitt pen. Just for these little details here. I don't always use this pen. You can get nice little variations with this baby too. And twice, maybe 3 times as thick on the side. I wish I was more consistent with my process. You know, like my hero, Mike Mignola, I'm pretty sure he knows exactly how he's going to tackle everything. Not in the execution of it, you know. I know he's kind of walks the tightrope and he works very organically, but as far as his tools go and stuff, he knows what he's using and why. I think. I could be wrong. Should ask him. No, I think this panel's fine. I am going to add in more black, but I think I'm going to do it digitally. Although, what I could always do is just turn this over. Let's just see. Oh, I know there's black there. I felt like his arms needed some more shadow. The rest of this seems like it's pretty good. Van Gogh's face, maybe that. And I can't quite see through all the spots here where I already put black in, so I'm not quite sure. Yeah, this looks cool. All right, so again, I could do this digitally. Oftentimes I'll do, but this is also another technique. which is something I like doing. So while on one hand I'm unhappy that I don't have an exact regular process every time, I also like that I don't. It does give me a certain amount of freshness, um, especially considering, the amount of hours that we spend here at the desk. Keeping yourself on your toes by doing something a little different, it's rewarding. Can drive you crazy too, because you're always kind of switching up pens and, you know. Like, here's a pen that I love. It's just a Uniball ballpoint pen. And it gives just a great, these little lines here. You see this little sharpness here? It like kind of bleeds out slightly and it creates like this really sharp, but it's so subtle. And I don't get that effect with my other pens. With the Pitt pen, you can get that effect, but it doesn't come naturally for me. With the old Micron, which is one of the best standby pens, you can get a little of that as well. There's something about the Uniball that I like. Maybe just that it's cheap. And psychologically, I like using cheap tools. Alright, I think that's good for now. Just a little video, just a little something. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. And yeah, just ask any questions below, and that'll be good.